host today. Today we have a special guest. Jo Phillips is here with us. She's going to be talking about choosing the right payment system for your business. Now, Jo's from Paymark, but we're going to be covering some general stuff as well. So don't change the dial. Get the information that you need for your business to start setting up these systems. Really important aspect of having a business, right? So here we are today. We're going to do this, but to make this session work for you, drop your questions in the chat function, Q&A function, or the comment section on any of the platforms that you're streaming with us on, and get your questions answered by the experts. Now, I do want to just throw it out there that if you do have questions that aren't pertaining to this event that you need help with, that's why our support team is here. So contact support at digitalboost.co.nz. So support at digitalboost.co.nz. We're here to help. They can even set up a phone call with you if that's a better line of communication for you. You don't have to do everything via email and chats. So take advantage of that. Let's help you get your business booming. Jo, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Hello.
Oh, there you were. Oh, hello.
Hi. Bit of a delay and I clicked again. So good morning, everyone.
We're really looking forward to having you on. Thanks so much for joining us today after the long weekend.
Yeah, I hope everyone got a chance to enjoy it. So no, happy to share information around payments. It's it's quite confusing. There's a lot of jargon, so hopefully we'll cut through some of that today and give you guys some bit more information to make some good decisions for your business.
I love that. Thank you so much for being. What I love about when suppliers and providers come on and they don't like zero in on something, really just an informative educational session so that people can make the best choice for themselves is we just really are grateful for that kind of objectivity and allowing us to explore this area with a really good knowledge base. So I am going to stop my video and make sure everything's running in the background, let you drive, but I'll be here to help facilitate any questions. Do you want them at the end or throughout?
Probably easier at the end, I think, but okay. But if there's any sort of burning question, happy to sort of pause. I'll do a bit of a pause at the end of each slide, and if there's something that someone's really keen to have addressed, then happy to answer them as well.
Yeah, cool. Because sometimes it's like, oh, you can't understand the information if you don't have that question answered. So that'll be good. We'll be looking for questions like that, and then maybe just some of the general stuff we'll leave till the end. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Oh, perfect.
Cool. I will. Okay, so hopefully you can see my screen. And
you're actually
let me know.
I'm just gonna you're actually in presenter mode. I don't know how we did this differently last time. Like I can see your notes.
Right. Nothing too controversial there other than just a name change. I'll just update that.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, last time we checked the share, it didn't do that, so I'm not sure.
I will try again.
Often when we've got two screens running, that kind of
there we go.
Happen.
That one, I think, will be the right one.
Yeah, I think once you put it in present mode, it'll be good.
Yeah.
Yep, perfect. Okay, cool. Okay, cool.
So I think so good morning, and I'm glad you guys could join. So first thing is that you've joined a talk about the basics of online payments from Paymark, but my slides say Worldline. So we are looking a little bit different. We've just undergone a rebrand from Paymark to Worldline, and that's really to better align with our parent company, which is Worldline, a global payments company. So The cool thing for us is that we get to tap into a whole lot more payment technology and knowledge and experience from companies around the world, which then we hope to bring back to New Zealand. And the team here in New Zealand stays the same. So we've still got our local support, our entire local office. So yeah, just thought I would cover that off in case you're thinking you're in the wrong place. Cool. So it's yeah, no surprise to anyone that obviously the challenges of 2020 have accelerated the shift online, and that's for both shoppers and merchants. And I just pulled some interesting stats from the New Zealand Post 2021 e-commerce review. It's available online. I highly recommend it if you are considering a move or if you're already online. They've got some great information. It's a free downloadable report, so definitely recommend that. But some of the key findings from the previous year were, they found that over 300,000 there were over 300,000 first-time shoppers online, which is a huge jump to what we were seeing previously. And I think interestingly is over just over half of those were suggesting that their shopping behaviour has changed permanently, so they're looking to shop more online. The good thing for us is that they were quoting 71% of their online spend is with local retailers. So it's not just Amazon and that sort of thing. It is locally spent, and there's a growth, 25% growth in their online spend, which is a huge number. Interestingly, I thought, when it went into the reasons why people's habits were changed and that drive online, I thought it would be a lot more COVID related. I thought it would be around that, getting out and about, reducing how much they have to get out and about and that sort of thing, lockdowns, driving that behaviour. But actually the highest ranked was the convenience of online shopping. So, which is incredible to see. So that means that people have tried it for the first time, they've enjoyed the experience or found that experience convenient, and so that's changing their behaviour permanently. So, while there is a spike started from last year in terms of behaviour, it looks like that's pretty much here to stay for a lot of shoppers. Cool. So getting started. I won't talk too much about the website side of things. There's a lot of information around that, and a lot of people much better qualified than I am to talk to that, but it does relate to the payment side of things. So some of that decision making around how you get started in e-commerce, or how you might grow what you already have if you do have a online presence already. So just a few questions that you probably need to consider is things like, do you keep your existing website and add e-commerce function to that, or do you start from scratch with sort of e-commerce in mind? And some things around that, you might consider how your current website looks on a shopper's mobile phone, for instance. So there's about 40% of e-commerce transactions were completed on mobile in New Zealand in the last year. So you just want to make sure that that's your current website, if that's what you're sticking with, sort of corresponds to that platform. Other thing is to consider is, if you are starting again or wanting to review what you've got, do you use a web developer or do you choose a self-build type platform? So things like Shopify as a self-build platform, Magento and others. There's a few tools out there. It probably just comes down to how comfortable you are with that technology and whether that's something you'd like to have a go at yourself, or if you would prefer engaging with a web developer. So each of your choices. So a web developer would can talk you through different payment provider options. They'll have integrated with different ones and have experience in doing that. Platforms like Shopify or Magento will talk you through that as well. We'll give you options around what you select as that payment part of that e-commerce platform. Cool. And other thing is just considering about where your customers will find you. So there's a ton of marketplaces online. So virtual shopping malls, things like locally we've got the Market, we've obviously got TradeMe, but other options are like Facebook Marketplace, which are growing, as well as social channels, so selling directly through Instagram, for instance. And there's payment choices around that as well. So, and this is the part we'll talk about more in depth. So choosing your payments provider. So it's probably, when you're building a website or developing that, it's probably not the first thing that you think about. You think about how it's going to look and that sort of thing, what your content is. But this is obviously an important part, and it's not always easy to find information online to help you compare your options. So I'll talk through in a wee bit more detail around comparing the fees, which can be, it can be pretty challenging. The settlement, so the settlement time, and these two things obviously correlate directly to cash flow for your business. And then there's a lot of payment types. So you've got credit cards, but there is a whole lot of other payment types that are available. So again, what's relevant for your business? And then support. So what sort of support is available? So I'll kick into comparing the fees. Cool. So with a credit card transaction on your site, if someone enters their credit card details and purchases a product, there are a whole lot of fees associated with that. And from your bank, they're generally grouped under what's called a merchant service fee. The description of what's in those fees sort of varies bank by bank, but essentially it's made up of the same components. So we've got the interchange fee, which is a published rate. They've got tables for those. A scheme fee. So when we talk about schemes, we're talking about essentially credit card companies, Visa, MasterCard, Amex, etc. So when we're talking about scheme, that's what it's talking about. So they have fees associated with any transaction using one of their cards. Then we've got the network or switch fee, so the network that payment's made on. And then I've just sort of lumped it as other fees. The reason I've done that is because each of the banks do sort of describe these fees slightly differently, but there's essentially other fees sort of contained in that under that merchant service fee. What your merchant service fee would be is something that you would discuss with your bank. There's a whole lot of variables, so they're the best people to talk to on that. But essentially, I guess what is good to understand is that when you do get those transaction fees, it is made up of a whole lot of things. Some of these things are just passed through, and then there's a percentage for many as well. So for some payment providers, what you would get is the payment gateway fee, which might be a flat monthly rate, or it might be a per transaction fee, and then you'll get your merchant service fee from your bank as well. And for other payment providers, and this is where the comparison starts to get a wee bit tricky, your fees could be bundled. So some payment providers will offer it's typically a cents per transaction, so e.g. 30 cents per transaction, and then a percentage per transaction fee as well. And what they're doing is bundling all the fees that are listed above into one for you. So just getting the fees from that payment provider. We talk about that as a payment provider offering acquiring. And again, I don't want to go too much into lots of jargon, but it might be useful to I guess, understand. That means that they will settle the funds to you rather than into your bank account rather than your bank, whereas the fees you get from your merchant service fee and then from your payment provider, it's the bank settling those fees. So there's just a difference there, and yeah, I think where the trouble with then comparing the fees is that some of them you can see the complete breakdown in the merchant service fee, whereas with the bundled fees, it's great because it comes from one place, but you're not necessarily seeing what all the different elements are. It makes the comparison really difficult. I've got a case study sort of further along of a small business going online, and what they've realized is that, so bundled up front was simple and easy, but as they've grown, as their online transactions have grown, actually looking at the fees will have quite an impact on their revenue as they look at seeing where they can make some savings by potentially not bundling those fees. And then the settlement, which is really important generally to businesses. So what you'd want to understand from your payment provider is when the funds are settled. So you'll have a cut-off time, and then the period of time for when the funds are settled. So for I can talk about our business. So in terms of if you had a Worldline Click as your payment provider, the funds are settled the following day. Some of the other payment providers who bundle their service, bundle the fees may take sort of 2 to 3 days. I've heard of up to 5 days. So it's a really important question to ask because it will directly affect the cash flow for your business. I'll just pause there in case anyone's got any questions, because the fees are a bit tricky.
I'm muted. I don't see any questions popping up just yet, but sometimes people need a second to type. So I'm kind of monitoring things on all platforms. I'd say, if you don't see, I'm just checking the other platforms. It look like we're pretty good everywhere there, and we're just following along. So maybe we just keep rolling, and if there's questions, there's questions. Sometimes there aren't any questions, and that's okay too.
It's all good. Okay, cool. All right. So yeah, fees are not easy to compare, but it is really worth comparing because there are some definitely some savings to be had if you do take that time to do that. Cool. So there are many different payment types. So credit cards, or the credit debit cards, so your old EFTPOS card, which now would typically have the Visa or MasterCard logo on it, so your credit debit card. They're still the most widely used payment type in New Zealand for e-commerce. Credit cards do typically attract the highest fees as well. So again, as per the previous, it's good to be across what that means for your business. So when we're talking about choosing your payment provider, it's really your payment gateway. And there are a lot of options. So there's Worldline, our Click payment gateway. There's Stripe, Windcave, and several others as well. So there's plenty of options. When you select your payment gateway, you also then have choices around, I guess, what type of integration you have. And again, if you're working with a web developer or if you're using a platform like Shopify, they make it really easy for you to make sort of these decisions. But just at a very high level, the most commonly used is the hosted payment page. So I've got an example here with King's Plant Bun. So what the hosted payment page means is that the payment part, so the payment gateway part, and when we're talking about the payment gateway part, we are just talking about this sort of, hopefully you can see that sort of green outline around this box where your customer enters their card details. That bit is hosted by the likes of us. The benefit for that is that we cover the PCI compliance. So PCI compliance is the payment card industry compliance regulations around ensuring that online payments are safe, and it's a very comprehensive compliance to achieve. And if you're not in the business of doing payments, then it could be quite a burden on a business. So yeah, the most commonly chosen is a hosted page. It might be called like a templated page, or there's various names that we all have for it, but essentially we're talking about the same thing. So looking at King's Plant Bun, so on their website, on their e-commerce site, you've got all the information around the cardholder information, the name, address, etc. We've got the shipping details, and then this middle section is the hosted part. So it's strictly not customizable. So for ours, we can a merchant can drop in a logo, but the rest of it is not customized, which works for most businesses, to be honest. Some larger businesses that are doing, hundreds of thousands or millions of transactions each month might choose to go somewhat more customizable, and that's an option too. So we're talking probably more of the large sort of corporate type businesses who would have the right support to manage some of that PCI compliance that they would then take on. So yeah, so in terms of your integration, like I said, your web developer would help you with this, or the templated type of website creation would also help you through these options. But that's just to, I guess, to demonstrate we're really just talking about this box here when a customer enters their card details. They're not entering it onto your website, they're entering it into essentially our system to ensure that it's secure. Cool. So credit cards are the sort of the biggest payment type for e-commerce here in New Zealand, but there are a lot of other payment types which can add a bit of confusion, but there are options. So one of those payment types, so this first one is unique to us at Worldline. It's called online EFTPOS. Essentially it means that your customers can use their debit account as if they were using EFTPOS, but doing it on an e-commerce site. So I'll talk you through kind of how they do it, but there's a couple of benefits to that for you and the customer. So the way it works, if I go back to this page here, so we've got online EFTPOS here. So if a customer was to pay by online EFTPOS, they click here, and what would happen would be a drop down where they select their bank, so ASB for instance, and then they simply just enter their mobile phone number. So they don't have to remember their card number, they don't have to remember the code at the back or the expiry, they just enter their mobile phone number. Benefit obviously is that we'll typically remember our own phone numbers. Then that, depending on the bank, would mean that they would go into they'd either get a notification or they'd go into their banking app and approve that purchase on the banking app. So it's quite easy and seamless and pretty straightforward for your customers. And then for you as a merchant, the benefit is because they're not using credit card, the fees are really a lot smaller than it would be for a credit card payment. So you're not having as much taken from that transaction as you would if it had been a credit card. So that's essentially making that paying from an account, a customer paying directly from their bank account, a much more seamless transaction than it has been in the past. They don't have to manually go into their internet banking, for instance, and type in account details and that sort of thing. It's very, very easy. There are other ways to do account payments as well. So you might have heard of Poly or account to account. So it uses a slightly different way of doing that. So not the way we do it with a mobile phone number, but essentially as an account transfer. Cool. And then there are many different payment types, which you've probably heard of, some of them, and they're growing. There's things like Google Pay, Apple Pay, Alipay. Essentially, they're all digital wallets. And your payment gateway may support some or all of these through enable that through a plugin. So far in New Zealand, it's pretty low uptake. So that's against the global trend, where these are growing much more quickly. But yeah, it's pretty low uptake in New Zealand so far, but obviously ones to look at. Again, they attract fees. It's no different to anything else. It's just a variation on being able to pay with a credit card using that digital wallet. And the other thing in terms of the payment types, the buy now, pay later, which have rapidly grown in the last couple of years. So you might have noticed on King's Plant Bun, they've got the option to pay by Afterpay. So instead of selecting card or online EFTPOS, they select Afterpay. And you guys probably know that just allows your customers to pay in installments. It's like I said, it's growing really, really fast, both here and overseas. What we're seeing is it's trending towards a sort of a younger demographic at the moment, but that will change over time. So one stat I saw is about 50% of people in New Zealand 35 years and under have used buy now, pay later. In some other markets overseas, they are seeing buy now, pay later replace credit cards. So younger people aren't getting credit cards, they're using this instead. So it's definitely one to watch. These payment types, you don't need to have them from day one. So these are things that you can add to your e-commerce options at a later date. So like we're seeing here. So in terms of King's Plant Bun, they could have launched this with that credit or debit card there and added online EFTPOS or Afterpay at a later date. Cool. And finally, in terms of some of those key things that you probably need to think about when you're making a decision around your payment provider are things like support and insights. So does the provider offer support in your local business hours? Have you got someone to call? Can you only email them? What's that contact like? And also with some companies where they're mostly based overseas, are they supporting in the hours that you need them to support in, or are they outside of New Zealand business hours only? So it's pretty easy question to ask. And then insights. So many providers, will provide insights, and many of these are free. So check if the provider that you're looking at does offer insights. So these will be things around your transactions, successful transactions. Some of them have things like your revenue, and they'll be able to enable you to make comparisons to a previous week or a previous month, that sort of thing. So these are things, sort of a valuable tool to help you make decisions around your business and understand what's going on as well. Another one is being able to compare if you do have a bricks and mortar retail as well as e-commerce. So can you compare the two easily within the same insights package? So can you compare? You might see things like you might be thinking your in-store traffic has dropped and your transactions have dropped in store. Can you get insights to show have those customers moved online instead? If we think about some of those stats from New Zealand Post at the start, they may well have moved. So still be shopping from your store but online instead. So that's just another question to ask or to find out from the payment provider or payment gateway whether they offer insights. And like I said, many of them offer them for free as well. So I'll do a quick pause there. I've got a little case study. I'll just see if there's any questions.
Sorry. Sometimes I'm just clicking away and it's like not happening. I'm going, what's going on here?
It's the long weekend.
No, we're still good. We're still good. We had some folks say on LinkedIn that one person had to jump off to run to class, so they're going to watch the rest later, So I think we're good. I know that it's sometimes you feel like, oh gosh, I've just been talking for forever, but people are just listening intently. So don't feel, stressed about it. And I say we just crack on, and if we've got questions at the end, people drop those in, and I'm keeping an eye on it. Don't worry, Jo.
Sounds good. Thank you. Cool. So I've just got a case study of a small business that went online a couple of years ago from a sort of a more traditional bricks and mortar type of business. So this is a business called Vitabella. So they're a florist, gift box, terrarium business who's predominantly, who has a business that sort of suits a physical store, and attends markets and that sort of thing. But they've moved on completely online, plus retained the markets. So I met with these guys just to talk through, from their point of view, what were the sort of things that they thought about, and how did they make their decisions to go online. What were the hooks or things that they discovered along the way. So going back to earlier where I was talking about, just getting started, getting online. So they've decided they've chosen WordPress as their web platform, and they chose it because of the greater customization available with it. It suited what they wanted to achieve with their site, but do admit that they had the help of a web developer, and said it was probably a step too far for them as a business who are not super technical. Did have the help of a developer. They did look at Shopify and a couple of the others, and thought that would be the option that they would choose if they didn't have that web development help, that sort of professional help. So so that's kind of went into their decision making. Having said that, they like how they've had it set up. So what was really important to them and something to consider is that they have seasonal offers. So they've got a Christmas box coming up. They may attend markets and not sell all of their product, and working with plants and flowers and things, it's a perishable item. So they want to be able to post sales and things like that on their website really quickly. So it's really important that they had the ability to make some of those changes themselves, that they weren't always reliant on the web developer to do it for them every time. So that's what they've made sure that they can achieve. And it's sort of that there's some things that are sort of beyond them, and it's mostly that payment side. So they do need help with adding anything like that to their website. I won't go into this too much, but one of the main reasons too for choosing WordPress was they were recommended for their search engine optimization. So where you're making sure that your website is easy to find when it's Googled, etc. So that did play into their decision making a wee bit as well. And then in terms of the payment provider, so they haven't chosen Worldline, or it would have been Paymark's click then. They've gone with Stripe. So Stripe offers a bundled fee. So they're getting a cents per transaction fee plus a percentage per transaction as well. But it includes all of those fees that are covered in that merchant service fee. So they are it gets paid into their bank account. So if someone makes a $100 purchase on their website, they get the paid into their account minus the fees. So they might get $96 of that $100 purchase into their account, for instance. They like that it's simple and liked that from the start, but as their business has grown and as more and more people are purchasing from their site, they do think they're at a point where they will compare fees again to make sure that they are getting the right I guess sort of on the right deal for them in terms of the number of transactions that they're doing, and it's not cutting into that margin that they make more. So they sort of at the start, where the simplification of the bundled payment was good, particularly at the start when you're making so many decisions already. But yeah, they'll have a review now that their transaction volume has increased, and yeah. For them, settlement is 3 days, which for this business they said is completely workable, and that's fine for them. And talking to them, they had heard from other sort of similar type of businesses that they operate at the markets with and things like that, some of them find that longer settlement challenging for cash flow. So a next day settlement would be preferable. So a business with a slightly different model where that cash flow is much more important would find that the simplification of the bundled fees isn't as important as getting their payment more quickly. So that's another thing to consider. And then this business, like I said, goes to markets and things. So for them, Stripe offers a PayNow app, which enables this business to take payment from customers at markets without needing a separate device. So nice and easy and part of the product offering. So that's another reason why they've chosen that particular provider. And in terms of some of the other payment types, so So these guys just take credit card payment, and they've tried things like PayPal, but didn't really like the experience from a merchant's point of view. They had to transfer the funds from the PayPal account into their own, etc. There's a bit more admin and things involved, and fees. They hadn't heard of online EFOS, but really like the sound of that. So I think that might be something that they add to their payment options, so they can maintain their Stripe. So they've got, like I said, Stripe is their card payment. They can add online EFOS to that as well. So as a different payment option without having to change their Stripe integration. And the other thing they've considered is buy now, pay later. So as I was saying before, it's a really growing segment. It's becoming ubiquitous on most payment payment options when you shop online. So these guys aren't rushing into it too much. They've just considered the sort of demographics of who their customers are and who's mostly using buy now, pay later for now. But it is something they will keep an eye on and consider for the future. But yeah, for a small business, it's as I'm sure you guys know, there are so many things to cover and think about that. Yeah, you can just take your time and think about who your customers are, how they shop, where they are, and always add these other options at a later date. Cool. So that's me. Thank you. I hope that's explained the basics of online payments. It is quite confusing, particularly the fees, which are really important to businesses. Obviously, of that $100 purchase, you want to retain as much of that as possible, and not spend it on the payment side as much. So yeah, hopefully that's helped.
Oh no, it's great. We've got a question here. It says, how does PayNow app work?
Oh, I would love to be able to tell you more. That's a Stripe. It's a Stripe product, so not one of our products. So I'm not super familiar with it. But the way that the Vitabella team explained it was that it's essentially an app that they get or can choose as an option. And I think it allows their customers to, I think it can send a one-time link for a payment to their customer, and they can pay that way. But I just jump onto the Stripe website, though I'm sure they'll have more on that.
Yeah, that's a great advice. Often they have chatbots as well on these kind of sites, and you can just ask the question, and it might even be in their frequently asked questions. There might even be a demo on their website page. I do like when folks have that. You go there and then you can just watch this quick demo and you're like, oh, that's how that works.
That's so good,
yeah. No, but great question. And you can always ask our support team if you would like a little bit more assistance there. I'm just going to jump over to the other platforms, just see what's happening, because I can see some folks watching. No, it looks like we are all good kind of question wise. This has been so informative, Jo. Thank you so much for putting so much detail into this presentation as well. We really appreciate it. Another follow-up question here, are there more than one company, or is there more than one company who do this type of payment? So maybe the PayNow kind of thing. I'm not familiar with this area, to be honest. This is an area that we haven't delved into much here on Digital Boost, and that's probably why there's so many questions of this nature. We can see contact support, I'd say, if you don't know offhand, Jo, because I think that they'll do a little bit of investigation for you, and they could give you maybe just like, here are all the apps that pertain to that. And that might be a really great thing. Also, possibly just a Google search of like, what apps are available for this kind of service.
Yeah, I just jump on the main payment websites. I'm not aware of any others that do it. To be honest, I thought it was pretty cool when I heard about it. I wasn't across it. So I'm pretty new to payments as well. So, but I think do a bit of Google search of those main payment gateways. Stripe and us with Click, Wincave, etc. Yeah.
Well, now I notice you've got your email down there at the bottom. Is that so that people can contact you if they had a quick question or?
Yeah, absolutely. So if there's anything that you think about later, or that haven't really covered, or something you want to know about our products, or just generally the fees and how this industry works, because there is a whole lot more detail we could go into. I'm really happy if people do get in contact, and happy to help.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this session, and more to come this week. We've got an action-packed week here on Digital Boost. Check out the full schedule online. Go onto Digital Boost and scroll down and find the events section, and you can RSVP to those events. If you stream with us online, you know that we're always here from 10 to 11, Monday through Friday. So lots happening. Joe, thank you again for joining us. It's been stellar. And we just appreciate your whole organization and this time invested in Digital Boost. Thank you.
Really, really happy to. So yeah, thanks, Anna Marie.
Wonderful. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Ka kite, and I will see y'all tomorrow.